Okay, drop this in Slack. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to give a quick update on Hyper's OS. It's been a while since we've updated our development efforts, and this is really the first update of the year, March 1st, 2022. And today we're just going to go through everything that we've been working on, starting with a demo of HyperCloud, which is what we've built on top of our open source product to make it super easy to spin up resources in the cloud and start writing applications. Then we'll go through kind of the adapters, core, connect, extensions, and tools. And yeah, looking forward to diving into it today. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments and go to our Slack community page, which will be in the description, and ask questions there as well. Um, so, first off, let's just go through a demo of HyperCloud because I think what the team's done is really cool. So if you go to dashboard .hyper.io, you will see, welcome to HyperCloud and GitHub, and we currently have 96 developers using HyperCloud. You can sign up for a free account by just clicking GitHub and logging in with your GitHub, and you'll get access to the ability to spin up apps here. You have applications, and when you add an application, you give it a name, and if it's available, then you can choose data, storage, cache, queue, and search. And these are all of our ports in our Hyper OSS environment. The data port can point to many different adapters. Same with storage, same with cache, and queue and search. And you can choose to spin up all of these services or just one and add others later. And then the queue and the search take a little bit more data to spin those up. So after you go through this initial sign up, you can choose to add queues and search instances as well. So we can go ahead and just hit create, and it'll go through spinning those up and launching data, then cache, then storage. And we can go to the dashboard for time, and we'll see our test app appear there. And we can go in, and the biggest thing to take away is this connection string. So this connection string is just a copy, and then you throw that in your environment variables, and then you're able to connect to the API. And here you can see we have our data, storage, and cache, and then we have the ability to add a queue service and the ability to add a search service. And like each one of these services take a little bit more information to set up those services. So that's really cool. And we've added this tool called Vision, which allows you to kind of query or inspect inside the HyperCloud services so you can kind of see data or cache or storage to troubleshoot things, which is really cool. And then the last thing I'll say is upcoming on this is we're working on going beta, and part of that will be actually the ability to add roles to keys, so you can create a key that's kind of read only, and a key that's read write and etc. And there'll be more information with that in the future. But for now, let's go ahead and jump into some of the stuff that's been going on in the open source um, area, especially with adapters. So we were able to build a data adapter using DynamoDB, and you can find it here at this URL. And then another shout out to CA Wilson 1, and he was able to use DynamoDB and the cache adapter. So we've got to look at using DynamoDB as a cache, which can be really cool. So definitely encourage you to check those two out. And another shout out to Tilla the Hun or Tyler, who has made several updates to our AWS adapters S3, SQS, open source, search, and cache, as well as some updates to some of our data adapters as well. So that's been pretty awesome. And behind that, um, so that's been really awesome to see. And we're continuing to expand on the adapters. I think when we get into quarter 2, we'll really start to look at adapters on other platforms like Microsoft Azure and putting some adapters there so that we can really start to move to this multi-cloud vision for Hyper. Um, so in core, this is always kind of cool. There's been some activity on core, but it's really been refinements and continuing to just make tweaks. Like one of the things we're working on is to make the error handling between the ports and the adapters and the core apps exactly the same so that it's very consistent. And we've had 64 commits, and I can't remember how many releases for last month, but I think it's around 20. So we continue to keep core active, and you know it's pretty exciting. Um, the next piece is HyperConnect. HyperConnect is a client for Dino and Node and all versions of Node, so it works well with TypeScript and ESM and CJS. But HyperConnect allows you to quickly use that connection string that I showed in the demo, connect, and you have access to all the services via Node or um, Dino. And it's a very simple API, hyperdata.add, and you add your JSON document, or hyperdata remove removes one, hyperdata query. You can add a query selector, and yeah, it's very easy to use. We also added support for hyperq in there, so now there's data, storage, search, queue, and data, storage, search, queue, and cache. I always forget one. But that's HyperConnect. Let's go to the next update. Hyperextensions. This is really exciting. So, an extension is a way, since Hyper um, Core is very much promise based, and Hyper Connect, which is the client, is very much promise based. We can actually take these APIs and compose them. And the first one we did is Hyper Counter, and it just composes the cache API and creates really nice, kind of usability endpoints for creating a counter. So you can call .inc to increment the counter key, gets you the value, decrements the key, and resets the value. Um, this is really cool, and And this was our first proof of concept, and it works really well. The second extension we're working on, we're calling Hypermodel, and that should be coming out in about 3 weeks. And Hypermodel is almost like a mini ORM for Hyper. It allows you to declare your schema and then just set flags. I want this model to be enabled for search. I want this model to be enabled for cache. And I just set a flag, and Hypermodel will automatically, use the proper code to validate your model and to add it to the search service and add it to the cache as well as the data service in a composable way. And then if you can set it to either non-atomic mode, which means it'll be idempotent, so some may pass and others may fail, and you can retry until they all pass, kind of thing, or drop out and report an error saying, well, it's able to write to data, but it couldn't write to cache. And then there's not atomic mode, which atomic mode will actually try to write to everything, and if one thing fails, it'll actually error back, so then you can retry again, and know that it's always going to be consistently all or nothing kind of thing. And we think that those will give a lot of flexibility in your workflows to kind of be able to add that. Let's see. Um, Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about, that's extensions, and then is tools. And we just this quarter released a pretty cool tool called Hypercopy. And Hypercopy is a CLI tool that allows you to copy from one connection string to a target connection string. So let's say you have some data in a development hyper app, and you want to move some of that data to production hyper app. So you could use Hypercopy to take it from your dev app and move it to your production app. And you can just move data around with a simple copy, and what it'll do, no matter how large the size, it'll take chunks of 1,000 records and move them from one place to the other place, and it works quite well. Uh, it's set up. The executable is set up to run in Linux x64 environments. And if you need another environment, just let us know and we'll build it for either Mac or Windows. We're also planning on exposing an export tool on the dashboard for our beta release, which will allow you to pull the data down from our Hyper dashboard. So that's really cool. And we're super excited to continue to expand on the tool front and offer many kind of helper tools to manage Hyper um, in that regard. So that's pretty cool. And there's core one more time. Um, so just real quick on what's coming next. So we're getting very close to releasing our Hyper Cloud product as beta, and would love to encourage you to go ahead and sign up for the developer preview. Um, there will always be a free preview sandbox for you to play and kick the tires. And then as you start to develop an app that you want to take into a product, then we have other tiers, and that'll be set up on the website. It's actually in our help documentation as well. But totally are looking forward to it. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to join our community. And we're gonna move back to a monthly cadence of doing these, and I'll make the announcement on when the next community update will be, but it'll probably be in April, and um, looking forward to answering any questions you may have. Thanks for watching, and hope you have a great day.